You're listening to Six Finger Learning with Jason Freak.
Some nights begin where they should end up being put to sleep. Some nights should end where they begin. Look at all the kids and some dulling for suicide. As we promise thugs and as we live hard as a killer. My neck is round, head's on, but it's not. With subtle changes in pressure, it's getting better and better.
Hey kids, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are, wherever you are, it's good to have you back. All right, so up until this point, we have been outlining some pretty basic fundamental principles of what we call six-finger learning. Now, these principles can be applied outside of education, but we believe, just for our conversations, that we're going to stick to education. So when we're speaking about these elements, please keep in mind that we're speaking about education, acknowledging that it could be applied in other areas. Anyway, the first one being psychic douche. That need to remove the bullshit in our heads, the bullshit that we accumulate as we go through life of following this path of just endless classrooms and bells ringing and just bullshit assessments and all this stuff, and just year after year after year after year after year as we're developing, and seeing that there's more than just one way of doing it, that there's really like an infinite number of ways of doing it. But the idea is to just remove that very constrictive perception of there's only this really narrow path that we're supposed to take. Remove the bullshit, widen the perspective, and see other options. Okay. Second principle. That would be, well, now that you see things, if it's not equitable, if it's not fair, if it's not rational, if it's not sensible, if it's, anything that's not the way it's supposed to be, demand more. Now, both of these steps require a lot of effort, and it's not easy for people. You have to kind of develop the muscles to consciously remove the bullshit, constantly try to widen your perception of education, and then to demand more. The third principle sort of puts it all together, and that is when you remove all of the bullshit and you see that you ought to get more, or someone else ought to get more, what are you supposed to do? You change your environment. That's the third principle. If those three things are working together, if you're widening your perspective, and if you are consciously saying that a change must occur that will be more equitable, that will be more fair, that will be more sensible, the only way to really get that to happen is to change your environment. Now, people will say you change the people. No, you're not going to be able to change the people. The people are the people who set this stupid shit up. So what you have to do is you have to change the environment. And we're going to spend a lot of our time on how to change the environment. But what I'd like to do just in this particular meeting is to outline why it's the environment that you change. And I think in explaining why is it the environment that you change, it'll make more sense on the hows that we discuss later. How do we change our environment? It'll make more sense as to why do we choose these options of how versus other options of how. But to go through this, it's really, I'm going to have to monologue a little bit and show my age and talk about me. And as I was developing as a student, I was a professional college student for quite some time. I earned 3 degrees back to back to back. And So I, starting off in high school and all that, I was an idiot and didn't give a shit about anything other than the stuff that idiots give a shit about when they're in high school. But anyway, I digress. I apologize. This is about a gentleman that I met when I was going through college, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. He was a straight up legit philosopher. He was a fantastic teacher and instructor. And his name was James Rachels. And I first encountered Dr. Rachels, excuse me, as a high school student because I debated. And it was Lincoln Douglas debate. It was, bullshit artist debate, not like policy debate where you have these different facts and things. So that being said, not to begrudge Dr. Rachel's, but I read a lot of his books during that time because I would use some of his works to bolster my arguments, basically saying that morality has a rational basis. And I won't get into that too much. But it was just cool that there was this guy that I had read, never thinking I'd ever meet him, and then flash forward like 3 years later, and I'm sitting in his classroom. And he was beyond fantastic. And I don't just mean that from, my personal perspective. Everybody felt that he was wonderful. And I even mean like his colleagues, his department. He was known around the entire campus for being a really, really nice, a really, really smart and giving person. And he had things like people would always come by his office. People would go all over campus to come by his office to see these little 3x5 index cards that he'd put up by his office that would give his ratings of movies that had just come out. And his ratings were like legit. Like people, I mean, there were people who went to movies or did not go to movies based solely upon Dr. Rachel's recommendations. Anyway, wow, that was too much information, so I apologize. So I'm sitting in this gentleman's classroom, and it's a philosophy classroom. I was entertaining the idea of going into basically medical ethics. Working with hospitals and hospital systems on things like end of life. Things like patient choice of ending life or what have you, and different experimentation and all of this. And obviously, I didn't go in that direction, but it was a really good basis for conversations about things beyond the medical field, and it really opened my eyes to see how things seem to operate to me in a sensible fashion. By that I mean, we focused upon one of his books that I would recommend anybody reading, whether you sway this way or not, but it's called Created from Animals, The Moral Implications of Darwinism. And it's essentially a book that says if you believe in evolution, you should really consider how you and how we as a society interact with animals. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the animal rights stuff. I definitely sway more that way than I don't. But just the logical basis of it, which was he would outline things like, why does the perfume industry use rabbits to test eye irritation for humans? And the answer was because they have an eye most closely developed as ours. Okay, you move forward, you go to then why do we use, primates? Again, because they're the closest. And why do we use X, Y, and Z? Because they're closest. We're always trying to, pig's skin is closest to our skin. We're always doing all these different things as they're getting closer and closer and closer to us. And his, again, I told you his whole idea of morality is it's based upon logic and reason is that, well, then if those animals are closest to us in all these different ways, would they not also be closest to us in owning the same rights that we think that we should have as human beings? I mean, if they're so damn close, why wouldn't we have, like, people having their eyes getting all fucked up. Because why do something that's close? Why not just do it? Because if it's okay to do it to something that close, well, fuck it. Don't just take the extra step and just go all the way. Is there a problem with that? Is there a problem with like getting like, young children and having their eyes, eaten out by acidic perfumes and shampoos and soaps and things? And we can document that so that other people don't, because it's it. But if that's so fucked up and so fucking crazy, then why would you do it to a creature that is as close as it can possibly be to you? Why would you treat it so, horribly? Anyway, so, and it really boils down to that on the genetic side of things, they are as close to us. And then we control the environment. We strap them in and we do whatever the fuck we want to with them. And we find out what we want to find out. Well, as a student, that's essentially what's happening to you going through the educational system. The environment is just as invasive. And people say that's fucking ridiculous. No, people die when they go to school. Yeah, people die in fucked up ways when they go to school. Yeah, they do. People are traumatized. People are warehoused. People are fed food that the government thinks is best for them. The lunchroom shit. It is not too fucking dissimilar from how we fuck around with all the other animals. And remember, this is about being as close as possible to the legit thing. As a student, you're not quite there. You're not quite, the 18 years apart from when your parents had you. They're only like 20 years, 25 years older than you. No, you're not quite there. So you deserve this shit. We're going to put you in a situation that you're just going to just kind of like gain consciousness in, where bells mean so much to you. The shit rings. And everybody jumps and everybody fucking moves. And in no other place in life will that fucking happen. No other fucking place in life will something like ring and then you got to go, on the hour, every hour to a different room, to a different place to learn a completely different fucking thing. Okay, and you better be good at it too. Again, no other time in life. I used to get in arguments with people about the whole point of school and as it prepares us for places. So, what job do you have to, know the Pythagorean theorem, be able to conjugate, the pluperfect form of Spanish verbs, appreciate, the difference between Winroy and fucking Jackson Pollock or whatever. Just showed my stupidity. And run a mile under 7 minutes, in PE and shit like that. And maybe you have to go play a fucking instrument too, and then after that you're going to go, strap on, a football helmet or something, or you're going to play softball or something or whatever. Yeah. That's what life is going to be like when you leave. Bullshit. That's what life is going to be like. Nothing like it at all. You're never going to be asked to be an expert on everything. Like, who the fuck needs to be an expert on every fucking topic the way that you're asked to be an expert in every fucking topic for basically 12 years of your fucking life? Sorry. So it's the whole idea of your environment shaping you, and your environment being basically the only thing that you can change in the whole situation if you believe in any sort of like evolutionary thought, because you can't change your genetics, at least not today. I mean, shit, I don't know how many generations will be where you probably could, but right now you can't change your genetics. So you can either go through the fucking process, you can just go through the whole fucking factory, the kindergarten factory, where you're just these little oblong little Oompa Loompas going around, and what the fuck? What are you really doing? and then you go to basically first grade through, let's say, fifth grade. Again, what is that? What's happening there beyond daycare? Honestly, what's happening there beyond daycare? I understand economic engine, the other cogs, the previous generational cogs, your parents, your grandparents, they got to go fucking work. So you're getting warehoused. And then you start talking like middle school and high school. Why the fuck aren't you working? Isn't that what it's all about? Again, if you're so close to it, why aren't you working? Why aren't you thinking about those things? Because that's not to their benefit. That's not to their advantage. That you're going to outpace them. You are going to literally go beyond them, and it's happening now, and it happens naturally, even with the constraints that are placed upon you. But at the same time, there's some other factors out there in the environment that you better fucking get ahead of, that you're not going to be able to control. And I don't know who the fuck is going to control it. And that being artificial intelligence. It's no longer just the notion that, hey, there's this fucked up archaic system that I'm going to go through. That being, I'm going to go through the traditional pre-K through 12, then I'm going to go get an undergraduate degree and, maybe get a graduate degree, whatever. I'm going to go through all that, accumulate the debt, be really, really kind of narrow and antiquated sort of, core knowledge, and having to make shit up as I go along for the next 25, 30 years because shit's going to be thrown at me that they never prepared me for. It's not just that anymore. It is now, holy fuck. We have like the whole idea of automation being taken to a level that could never, ever have been imagined 100 years ago. That change that I'm talking about in prior talks about how, within 100 years, shit, in the next 25, 50 years, it's going to be a fucking nightmare hellscape for some people because of what automation is going to do across the board with every industry. So what does that mean to, lawyers, marketers, teachers, doctors? What does that have to do with, accountancy? What does it have to do with basically fucking anything? And are you being prepared for that today? Are you seeing anybody preparing you for that today? There isn't anybody, not as far as I know. So you got to do it. You got to do it. And it's quite likely that it's just not going to be enough. Not to sound too pessimistic, but it just may not be enough. But you better fucking do something. You need to wake the fuck up and see what is happening. Because you can argue against the difference generationally of the value of an education, but you cannot argue. You cannot fucking argue that any generation before this generation is immediately facing something as seismic as what artificial intelligence is going to do. It just isn't there. So this is like, comet extinction level event possibly. And we're just kind of saying, does anybody else see what we see? That's all we're trying to say. Does anybody else see what we see? Because if you see what we see, can we shut the fuck up about the way things have they been and all of that and start talking about how things ought to be so we can prepare for whatever the fuck is going to come our way, as opposed to what you guys have always mapped out would be our way? Because shit's about to get out of control for everybody. So, again, at the foundation of what we're trying to get at is that we're trying to get people to see what's happening, see what has been going on, and to try to forecast about what's going to come and try to make all three sort of make sense, as opposed to playing some charade and going through the charade as we get older, just experience struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle in new ways and struggle in deeper ways. Because if you look at the last, say, 5 to 10 generations of high school graduates, college graduates, every study will show you how there's just been this decline of quality of life, a decline in the ability to gain traction and move ahead the way you're supposed to move ahead. That's what the rules stated, that you'd move ahead. So it's only going to get worse, and it's going to get worse exponentially. So this one's a little bit short and sweet, might have been a little unhinged, but we're going to succinctly break these components down a little bit more, but we're also going to have fun, because to change this environment, to move in the directions that we're going to need to explore, we're going to have to upset some people. We're going to have to challenge some people. And the whole idea of the psychic douche, the whole idea of demanding more, it's a muscle, and you've got to get used to doing this, because if you don't, look at the people around you. Look at the graduates. Look at your aunts, look at your uncles, look at your parents. Some of you might be lucky when you look at those people. I would imagine most of you would not feel lucky if you were like them, plus a little bit more debt, plus a little bit less prepared for the future. Because like it or not, if you're in college right now, or if you're about to graduate from college right now, you got 30 years of this shit. Whereas maybe they only got like 10 or 15. They could probably coast over the next 10 or 15 years. You're not going to be able to coast at all. So you just need to look at it, and we're going to show you what to look for. We're going to give you advice as to how to address the things that you see. But it's going to be up to you to do it. As I said, I got my degrees. I'm not doing this shit because I'm trying to get more degrees. Fuck no. Just trying to cast a light, ask, is there a better way, and encourage the fuck out of you to demand more. Because you deserve more. You deserve more than what you have right now, and you definitely deserve more than what you're going to be getting if shit doesn't change. Okay, so we'll end with that. Thank you very much for coming. Looking forward to the next few times that we talk. The topics are going to get fun. The topics are going to be cool. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Here from the